Hey, Mama Bear. Welcome to the Breastfeeding with Confidence podcast. Do you dream of bonding with your baby through exclusive breastfeeding, but worry about breastfeeding pain or low milk supply? Maybe you're struggling with breastfeeding and no one seems to have any answers. I'm Jamie, doula, international board certified lactation consultant, and mom of 5, and I have been where you are. After working through painful latches, milk supply worries, and postpartum depression, and supporting countless mothers through their breastfeeding journeys for over 8 years, I'm here to tell you breastfeeding doesn't have to be perfect to be positive. Each week, I'll share breastfeeding tips to help you prevent and overcome unexpected breastfeeding challenges so you can actually enjoy bonding with your baby. If you are ready to shut out the toxic whispers of the world, embrace your God-given intuition, and release your inner fierce mama bear, grab some coffee or your favorite herbal tea, and let's dive in. This episode is brought to you by Restorative Roots. If you are pregnant right now, this is something you really need to think about before your baby arrives. One of the biggest shocks in early postpartum is how difficult it can be to nourish your body when you are exhausted, recovering from birth, and feeding a newborn around the clock. That matters a lot more than most mothers realize for milk supply, healing, and hormonal balance. Restorative Roots provides nutrient-dense, ready-made meals specifically designed for postpartum recovery so you can support your body and sanity without trying to cook when you have barely even slept. You can learn more using the link in the show notes below. Before we dive in, if you have not downloaded my free guide, The 5 Mistakes That Sabotage Breastfeeding, I want you to start there. It will open your eyes to the things most mothers do not learn until they are already struggling. You can get it at littlebearlactation.com/mistakes, and I will link it in the show notes. I had a client that we'll call Emily, and when I met with her, I asked her, "How are you feeling? How are things going?" And she started crying, and not the kind of crying where you're kind of holding it together and you're sniffling, but that kind of full body crying where you know she's been carrying this weight with her for days. Her baby was only a week old and she already felt like she had failed at breastfeeding. She told me that in the hospital, the lactation consultant had said that some babies just don't latch and she probably needs to accept that. And then formula was introduced and the focus completely shifted away from solving the problem, but it was just all about feeding the baby. And she was really frustrated because she put on her birth plan that she did not want to use formula without a medical need, but she was led to believe that her baby not latching is a medical need. And then nobody gave her a plan for how to protect her milk supply while trying to solve this problem. So by the time she came home, she was stuck in a cycle that so many moms find themselves in. She was pumping constantly, latching a few times a day, bottle feeding, and barely sleeping. No one made sure she knew how to pump effectively. No one checked her flange size, and no one told her how often she needed to be pumping to protect her milk supply. So she just kind of was pumping and hoping for the best, hoping baby would eventually figure out how to latch. And as we talked through everything that had happened, she got really frustrated and she still had tears in her eyes. And she asked me the question that almost every single client I work with asks me: why didn't anyone tell me this sooner? I thought breastfeeding would just happen naturally. And when it didn't, of course, she assumed it was all her fault. And that question breaks my heart every time because it's not her fault. It's not your fault either. If you are pregnant or you're newly postpartum and you're going through this right now, or you are pregnant and you face challenges, it's not your fault. But here is the truth that most moms are never told. Putting breastfeeding on your birth plan is not enough. Most traditional advice tells you to write skin to skin, rooming in, no formula unless medically necessary, and those things are helpful, but they're all surface level. If that's the extent of your preparation, I hate to tell you, you are essentially handing over your breastfeeding experience to the whims of whoever is on call that day. It is a mistake to believe that the hospital team is there to protect your goals. The reality is their job is safety, stabilization, CYA, liability protection. It is not long-term breastfeeding success. Even if they have that in their heart, their hands are tied by protocols and boxes to check. Hospitals are watching blood sugar, weight loss, jaundice, and they are focused on liability. When feeding is not going smoothly, supplementation is typically the fastest and safest solution in their environment. That doesn't mean that they're trying to sabotage you, but it does mean that that system is not designed for your goals. It is not designed to help you fix the root cause of those feeding issues and to implement strategic support. And this is why so many moms feel blindsided when they face feeding struggles early, because they thought that choosing a baby-friendly hospital meant breastfeeding would be protected. They thought that if something went wrong, someone would help them fix it. But most of the time, the deeper questions are never asked. When these deeper problems are not addressed, formula becomes the default. And again, it's not because you failed. It's not because your baby can't breastfeed. It's because no one prepared you for what to do when things are not normal. This is where we need to start shifting the conversation, because your birth plan cannot just be a list of preferences. It needs to be a strategy for when things don't go according to plan. So yes, please include skin to skin and rooming in. It's important. But you need a plan for what happens if your baby is struggling to latch, if your baby loses weight, because she probably will, most do. Do you know where these thresholds are to say this is a problem, this is not a problem? Your birth plan needs to have a breastfeeding plan that includes how you will respond if supplementation is suggested. And I know right now you're thinking, I'm just going to say no. But when the pressure is on and you're worried about your baby and you're thinking, gosh, I wasn't prepared for this, I wasn't expecting this, it might not be so easy to just say no. You need to know how to protect your milk in those first 72 hours, especially if your baby is not latching effectively. You need to have a plan and not just, oh, well, I'm going to pump. What does that pumping look like? How do you make sure baby's getting enough milk? You need to know the difference between normal newborn behavior and true red flags so that you're not making decisions from fear and exhaustion and pressure. And you and your partner need to walk into that hospital as a team with a plan. You need to understand the plan, and you need to know the questions to ask and how to pause and gather more information instead of just throw your hands up and be like, wow, I guess I'm one of the unlucky ones. Because the moms who avoid unnecessary formula, they don't have easy breastfeeding experiences, okay? It's not just easy for them. They're not just lucky, they're prepared. They're prepared. They know what to expect in those early days. They know what normal newborn behavior is. They know that fussiness doesn't mean low milk supply. They know their baby doesn't hate breastfeeding if they're struggling with latching. They understand what those early days mean when it comes to shaping long-term outcomes. And they don't hand over their decision-making authority. They learn and they lead. Breastfeeding is not about having perfect circumstances. It is about preparation and strategy and confidence. In the next episode, we're going to talk about one of the most common reasons babies are pushed into formula in those first 24 hours. And spoiler alert, it actually has nothing to do with your milk supply. It has everything to do with first-time moms and even the medical team not understanding certain nuances of breastfeeding in the early days. So if you want to have a plan when things go sideways, if you don't want to feel like formula is the only solution when your back is against the wall, and you want a clear step-by-step strategy before your baby arrives, I want to invite you to the Avoiding Unnecessary Formula workshop. Inside, I walk you through exactly how to protect your breastfeeding journey from the very beginning. We go through how to know when formula is unnecessary and being pressured, how to know if it would be a tool that makes sense, and if it is a tool that makes sense, how you can be smart about supplementing so that you're protecting your milk supply and everything doesn't spiral out of control. If you want to learn more, the link is in the show notes. I look forward to seeing you inside, and I'll see you next week to talk about how we can prepare to protect your breastfeeding journey even more. All right, Mama Bear, that is a wrap for today. If this episode helped you feel a little more confident or a little more prepared for breastfeeding, can I ask you a quick favor? Go ahead and leave me a review. It helps other moms find this podcast and join us in this amazing community of fierce and confident Mama Bears. And hey, if you know a friend who could use some encouragement or real talk about pregnancy, breastfeeding, and all things motherhood, share this episode with her. You've got this, Mama Bear. Trust your instincts, stay fierce, and I'll catch you in the next episode.